Okay, let's go ahead and get started on doing some linear regression. What we have here is some serial data. I think it's around 84 data points. And we have it broken out by fiber type, cost per serving, weight, sugar, calories. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to graph the sugar versus calories, and then we're going to get the regression equation, and then we're going to get the R squared and R values. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. The first thing I want to do if I'm doing sugar versus calories is to cover the sugar and calorie data, and it's okay to pick the labels up there. I'm going to go cover all of that data, scroll back up here, and then I'm going to go up to my Insert tab, and I'm going to choose Scatter. And then once Scatter drops down, I'm going to choose that first option, the top left, Scatter with only markers. I click on it. Now I've got a good starting point now. Let me make it a little larger. Okay, the first thing I need to do is add some axis labels. And if you look up here, it says chart layouts. I'm just going to start with this first one, and I can alter it to make it look the way I want it to. So now I can go into axis title and change that axis title. I'm going to label that calories. Y-axis, and down here at the bottom, this is sugar in grams. Let's see if I can cover that up. Sugar, I'll put in parentheses grams. And then as far as labeling this graph, I probably want to call it sugar versus calories. I'll go ahead and do that. It's a good name for it. Over here on the legend where it says calories, that is absolutely useless. I'm going to right click on it and delete it. I got a nicer looking graph now. Now all I need to do is add the trend line. To do that, I pick any data point and right click on it. When I right click on it, you'll see this menu come up. It says delete, blah, blah. We want to add trend line. So select add trend line. Linear is what we want. Now the key here is down here at the bottom, you want to choose display equation on chart and display R squared value on chart. Click both of those, hit close. Now there is my equation, and R squared is actually my coefficient of determination. I've got to get my correlation coefficient in just a second. The big R bothers me. I like for it to be a little r. All right, so I have my equation, I have my R squared. Now I need to get my correlation coefficient. Now, to do that, I'm simply going to go down here below the graph somewhere and say equals Correl, C-O-R-R-E-L, open parentheses, and I'm going to put just my sugar data in. It's my X values. And then I've got to make sure I've got a comma, and then I'm going to put my calorie data in. You probably do this at the same time, I'm not sure. I like to take a step-by-step approach. All right, now I have it. I'm going to hit enter. Let's see what it gives us. It gives us 0.552256. Okay, I'm going to round that to 2 or 3 decimal places. Let's say 3 since this is already, and I'm going to include this on my chart. I'm going to say R equals 0.552. If you want to check that answer, you can square your correlation coefficient. 0.552 squared should be 0.305, so that's a good way to check that. Now, another thing when you do a linear regression and you get your coefficient of determination and your correlation coefficient, again, the coefficient of determination is R squared. the correlation coefficient is R, you want to make sure that you're able to explain it. Okay? The R squared, or coefficient of determination, is 0.305, which tells you that about 30% of the total variation can be explained by the linear relationship between sugar and calories, just based on this, what we're analyzing. Now, my R value is 0.552. You'll need to explain that too. Now, your R value is always between, your correlation coefficient is always between -1 and +1. The closer to 1 it is, the stronger the positive correlation is. The stronger to -1, the stronger negative correlation it is. Textbooks say many things, but I would probably say anything above 0.8, around 0.8 and up, is strong correlation. Anything from 0.5 to 0.75 or 0.8 is moderate. So I would say this one has a moderate positive correlation. And then when you get closer to 0, it's weaker and weaker and weaker. So I would say probably 0.25 to 5 is weak correlation, and then below 0.25 you're really getting into a gray zone there where it's you've got to look at your graph. All right, we did sugar versus calories. Now what I would like to do is show you a little trick. The next thing I'm going to look at is sugar versus cost. You'll notice that my cost column is to the left of the sugar column. Right here, what you need to do is select column B and say Control C and copy that whole column. Come over here to F and say Control V, paste it in. You've got cost in two places, but this is going to allow us to do this analysis much easier because Excel takes a logical approach. The X value is going to be on the left, the Y value is on the right. If somebody else can figure that out, let me know, but that's the way that I've always done it. All right, I'm going to take this graph off right now, and we're going to do another graph. I'm even going to take that value out. So my next graph is going to be sugar versus cost. So let's select the sugar column from sugar all the way to the end. Now, to select cost, you need to hold down the control button because we don't want to do a shift because we would get calories too. Hold down the control button and select cost. There we go. All right, now it's time to go back to the insert. Choose line. Not line, what am I thinking of? Choose scatter. And the first selection there, we get cost. We're getting sugar versus cost. All right. Now, again, we want to change our chart layout, change the titles. We get, cost here, sugar here. I'm going to change the title to sugar versus cost. I'm going to take my legend out, right click on that, say delete. I'm going to make this a little larger. Select any data point, right click, say add trend line, display equation, display R squared. There they are. Now I'm going to change that R to a little r just because I said I like that. Now all I have to do is find my correlation coefficient, which is R. To do that, let's go up here. Oops. I'll do it right here. Equals Correl, open parentheses. I'm doing sugar, so I select the sugar values all the way down. There we go. Put a comma. select the cost values all the way down, finish those out, hit enter, and I get my correlation coefficient is 0.471. So I just enter that on my graph, and you're going to need to explain both of those similarly like I said. And I'm not going to go through the next graph. I think showing you two is fair enough. So what we have done is looked at linear regression, fitting a line, getting the regression equation there, also getting the correlation coefficient R, and as a bonus there we've got R squared in there, which is the coefficient of determination. Just do a good job explaining that. It's relatively easy to do.